Hey everybody, welcome to the Wizard and the Bruiser. I'm the Wizard, Holden McNeely.
And I'm the Bruiser, Jake Young. This episode, we're going to be talking about Star Wars A New Hope for 30 minutes.
Are you ready with the timer, Marcus?
Ready.
Start the clock!
All right, in order to understand Star Wars A New Hope, you really have to start with the life of George Lucas. He was born in 1944 in Modesto, California, and he had a passion for cars and motor racing, which led to his first film, a later film, American Graffiti. Jake?
American Graffiti, people love that shit. People were like, finally, here's the guy. He also did THX, who gives a shit?
He did THX 1138, but that was not a very good success. It was a critical success, but American Graffiti was the movie that made him a bunch of money and was very popular with the public.
And so, according to Lucas, he had the idea for Star Wars all along. He was like always Mr. Star Wars. He was just a big Star Wars shaped Eggman who was just going to sprout one day. But nobody liked the idea. Everyone was like, I don't know. It seems like a lot of gibbery goop.
But Jake, let's back it up for a second. He attended Modesto Junior College and then transferred to the University of South California. He was roommates with Randall Kaiser, who directed Grease, and he was buddies with Walter Murch, sound designer and film editor with such films as the Godfather films, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now. Hal Barwood, a game designer who would later go on to create a lot of the games for LucasArts, including the Indiana Jones game that was very popular. And John Milius, writer of Apocalypse Now, Dirty Harry, and Conan the Barbarian. They were a clique of film students, and people called them the N-words without attitude. I'm sorry, actually, that's wrong. It's they called them the Dirty Dozen.
No, everyone was fucking each other. Everyone was all up in each other's business. Like Francis Ford Coppola was the guy that was like, hey, George Lucas, you should really pitch this Star Wars shit. Like, everyone was connected in this scene. And you have to So he did sell American Graffiti. He was pitching the Star Wars and American Graffiti, and all the execs were like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about with your spaceships and jib-jabs. I'm going to make this cool 1950s.
Yes, they let him do the cool 1950s thing that was based on his love of cars back when he was a kid. Also, he was actually due to make Apocalypse Now and ended up not doing that. It was going to be a documentary-style film about soldiers back in the war. Ended up going to Coppola.
Yeah, and well, he actually told Coppola to not do the movie. He was like, I don't really see anything here that's worth making a film about. There's a reason why I turned it down.
That impression was really good, Marcus. I'm going to need you to, de-neckify it by about 80%. If you just get less neck in there.
The problem with Star Wars...
there you go!
When I pitched it as Adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Wills Saga 1, the Star Wars, no one really was into it.
If you can... I'm sorry, this is not a video podcast, but Marcus's neck, actually, his chin is touching his sternum.
Down into his sternum. We have called the police. I don't know why we called the police, not an ambulance, but we've called him. I think I want him arrested. Fun side fact, Lucas was one of the camera ops for the classic Rolling Stones concert film, Gimme Shelter.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? Pretty fucking bonkers.
Was he right there when the dude got stabbed?
I bet he tried weed while it was happening. Okay, so THX, critical but not a financial success. American Graffiti got him the money to give him the clout to make Star Wars. And then, of course, we move into the Star Wars trilogy.
Now, this is the thing that kind of got me is that, even up to shooting, the working title of his script, it's gone through a bunch of phases, but this is the one that gets me, is the fourth draft, technically the final draft before they were actually going to start rolling, was called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of Wills, Saga 1, The Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know how much compromise and good-natured friends have to be like, how about just Star Wars?
and originally he was trying to get the rights to Flash Gordon because he was the whole influence on making Star Wars. He wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie and he couldn't get the rights. And so, of course, for some reason, Coppola was with him that day. And Coppola said, he said George was very depressed because he had just come back and they wouldn't sell him Flash Gordon. And he says, well, I'll just invent my own.
Okay, can we just talk about, for real talk, you've pitched things, we've all been in meetings, we've all, tried to convince someone, that our idea is good. pitching Star Wars without having Star Wars as a reference is fucking bonkers.
I mean,
it is ludicrous.
You know, they had 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they were trying to say, no, this is not 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is, swords in space. You know?
Are you familiar with Gulliver on Mars?
Yes, I'm so happy you brought that up. Gulliver on Mars, originally entitled Lieutenant Gulliver Jones: His Vacation, later retitled Gulliver on Mars. That was the first published in 1905. It was Lucas's first. He said he couldn't find anything earlier than that was sort of the influence on Flash Gordon. So apparently, Gulliver on Mars was really the very first piece that was sort of like in the Star Wars line of people battling monsters in space, about a military guy that kind of bumbled his way through space.
That was part of a large genre that everything from Alan Quatermain to John Carter on Mars. All these things is basically, don't worry, even in this situation, a white guy can still shoot everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And that, of course, led to Flash Gordon, which was a comic book that came out in 1934 by Alex Raymond, but turned into
a knockoff of Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a fucking inverse wheel of people being like, man, it'd be really cool if a blonde guy shot something in space.
Yeah, exactly. And man, boy, did a young necklace George Lucas in the theater, just like, I first of all, I learned how to masturbate yesterday. I'm very excited about that. I know it doesn't sound like I'm excited about that, but I'm incredibly intense. I know it doesn't sound like I'm excited about anything when I talk about being excited about something, but I'm very excited about learning how to masturbate, and I'm also very excited about this Flash Gordon movie that I'm currently watching. Down in front, George! We're trying to enjoy the movie! How does that man know my name? I've never met that man before. George, I'm friends with your father. Oh, okay. Well, that explains that.
Well, that's the thing, is that was missing from sci-fi. Like, everyone was so enamored with, like, kind of the clean line space race, like, future of tomorrow, we're all going to live on the moon stuff, that, like, they don't really realize that, like, space fantasy before that was all just like, look out, it's Vlardo of the Bing Bong Galaxy.
Yes,
I've been saying Bing Bong a lot. I got to find more gibberish phrases. That's actually a talent George Lucas has, is coming up with great nonsense words.
He is really good with nonsense words, and I think he got it from Flash Gordon. He was Flash Gordon. He goes to Mars. He goes to the planet Mongo in Flash Gordon, and he encounters the evil Emperor Ming the Merciless, which I think is a bit of an anti-Asian thing.
No, it's a planet with an African name with a Chinese ruler. Like, it's all exotic nonsense.
And his daughter, Princess Aura, tries to help Flash. There's also King Kala, ruler of the Sharkmen. He's on Ming's side. And Prince Thune, leader of the Lion Men, on Flash's side. And let us never forget King Volton, leader of the Hawkmen, comes in around episode 6 or 7, I believe.
Right, so he's going up to, like, old Hollywood guys, like fucking cigar in the mouth, like, the Buster Keaton, that was a son of a bitch, like those guys, and he's pitching, like, basically a return to this level of swashbuckling insanity.
Something that's arguably in the movie that was in the Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon fights a giant octosac in a chamber filling with water, which I think would be kind of like when they fight in the junk room. Mm-hmm. You know, it was also a vicious orangopoid, which is, I think, just a big monkey.
Well, if you remember the orangopoid, I have something somewhat similar. It's called a Chewbacca.
Exactly, totally Chewbacca. Now, why don't we just play this out right now? I'll be a studio exec, you be George Lucas, and try to pitch me Star Wars.
All right, so I don't really have, like, a plot. Oh, so wait, hold on. Okay. Hold on, let me denecify.
Mr. Lucas,
a little more neck. I'm sorry.
Mr. Lucas, it's nice to meet you. Now, you say you have a bit of a kind of a space movie.
My follow-up for American Graffiti, it's I don't have a plot yet.
Which we loved American Graffiti. Very down to earth, cars, kids. Yep. Everybody remembers the 50s.
So Luke Starkiller is the son of Anakin Starkiller.
Can I stop you right there? Mm-hmm. Okay, he is a killer of stars. I'm not really quite sure.
His father was a famous Mendu Bindi commando warrior that mastered various space fighters. There was the Sith. There's the evil counterpart. One of the dark Mindu Biths entered that.
Susan, can we get some vodka in here?
Chewbacca
some vodka in
is a
here,
dog
Susan.
man.
Okay, Chewbacca's a dog man. I see. So what does the dog man do in the multi-million-dollar film project you came in here to produce? I'm sorry, I'm getting angry, Mr. Lucas.
If I could just get 10 million of your dollars.
10 million. I'll
in
tell you
your
what.
1970s dollars.
I'll give you 8 million, and then you'll go over budget for 2 more. How about that?
I get the merchandise rights.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Have you guys ever seen what Chewbacca originally looked like?
A long time ago. Remind us.
It's like a bat owl of sorts.
Yeah, cool.
Dude, my favorite thing, and I know this doesn't happen until Empire Strikes Back, but I have to bring it up in this one podcast, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we come back to Empire Strikes Back in a later podcast. But Yoda was originally supposed to be played by a monkey wearing a mask. There's a picture, Marcus. You should definitely look it up. It was originally a monkey in a mask, and they taught the monkey to hold the cane.
Now, a chimp or like a little capuchin?
I think a little tiny maybe a capuchin. What would you call it?
That's definitely no. That's a spider monkey.
A spider
my
monkey.
God.
No way.
Oh, no.
There was. So it was originally before they went to Frank Oz and was like, maybe this should be a puppet. It was a monkey.
So what were they going to do? I guess you'll get into it on that.
We'll get into that in a later episode when we cover Empire Strikes Back. It's my favorite fact about the movies, though.
So basically, he gets this made on like just the fact that I guess American Graffiti worked and whatever. Like, okay, nobody believes in this project. The fact is that like it's an amazing cultural icon. It is. I think about it more and more as we got into this episode. This movie is fucking amazing and does so much shit that like I knew about the Force and I understood the Force decades before I had any idea about like Zen Buddhism or Eastern mysticism or chakra. And like what other movie like introduces a religion in the middle as like a key plot point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like, and what's more baffling to me is learning about the filming process and learning that, you know, like the cast and crew everyone thought it was going to bomb. Everybody thought it was going to be terrible. He had an early showing of the film for all of his director buddies, and Spielberg apparently was the only director that actually thought the movie was okay. And that was before it had the special effects or anything in it. Harrison Ford himself found it strange. He said he found it strange that there's a princess with weird buns in her hair, and he called Chewbacca a giant in a monkey suit. And that's just him, you know, I mean, iconically playing this character, and he's looking around just being like, this whole thing's a fucking disaster.
Oh, fucking Harrison Ford, fucking swagger carpenter man movie star, just like in a fucking gray hallway shooting space Nazis for pretend.
Yeah, he was a 34-year-old carpenter. What did he have to judge about?
I know, right? But he was judging this movie. Everybody was judging this movie. I mean, it was mired with problems from day one. They shot all the desert scenes in Tunisia, and there was this crazy rainstorm. They had all this electrical problems. It was weeks behind. Obviously, it went $2 million over budget.
I mean, I don't know if any of our listeners are familiar with traditional film cameras. They love sand.
Yeah, sandy places are the best places.
All
to
those
be.
moving parts are just like yum yum yum. Give me sand.
Fuck, what's the name of the documentary about Terry Gilliam making
something La Mancha?
Yeah,
Like-
the Man of La Mancha.
Lost in La Mancha.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful film about a man having terrible problems trying to film a feature in a desert. It's wonderful.
But so another thing that this movie is well known for is all the special effects work.
Yes.
Which at the time they had to invent methods up and down, left and right. All the behind the scenes stuff, especially from those early movies, are physical things that they had to just make and like figure out how to shoot, like the initial title crawl.
I love those photos too of the hand built sets. You were saying about the title crawl?
The title crawl is literally a long, like sheer chunk of text that they had to physically drag across a matte background. And so like when it's going off to the distance, that's the actual camera angle. There are physical letters being pulled. And
so
that's
good.
insanity.
It's so amazing. And you know, this was all kind of a big shot in the dark for them, too, because 20th Century Fox didn't have a visual effects department. It had been disbanded. So in 1975, Lucas formed his own visual effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, and they were really just kind of throwing shit out there. In fact, there were major issues because I think they spent like half their budget on 3 different special effects shots that Lucas was unhappy with and had thrown out. And they were also also behind schedule because apparently they were very undisciplined because it was like a ragtag team of misfits, and Lucas had to like step in and like put him in the corner and stuff.
Hey guys, listen, the Death Star's looking great. I really appreciate it. Could you stop smoking angel dust?
I'm sorry, bro, but I just fucking got some real good green from the. Oh, you want lights to come out of fucking butt or mouth? I'm sorry, man.
In the third draft, yes, there was lasers coming out of a butt, but we got rid of that scene.
Fucking kisses in town, bro. I can see 'em rocking and rolling all night and every day.
I swear to God, if you're one of the weirdos that actually started Pixar, I'm going to be so pissed off.
I am one of those weirdos. I fucking wrote Wall-E last night while I was banging 4 girls. They were all fucking big hairy bushes. Because they had hairier bushes back then because it was the 70s. So that was more in vogue. I would have said they were cleanly shaved if it was like the 90s, you know? And I think now a little bit of hair is more the way to go in our current day.
But so the movie came out. It was a huge success. Everyone, like, just pretty much, it was a cultural fucking phenomenon. Imagine Pokemon Go if it actually mattered.
It was gigantic. What's great, too, though, again, it's talking about the small rise and then that no one expected the blowout. That's you gotta love stories like those. It debuted on Wednesday, May 25th, 1977 in fewer than 32 theaters. And then they added 8 more on Thursday and Friday. That's fucking bonkers. They said, Kurtz, the producer, said that would be laughable today. It immediately broke box office records, effectively becoming one of the first blockbuster films, and Fox accelerated plans to broaden its release. The film saved 20th Century Fox. That was they were kind of going down under. Within 3 weeks of the film's release, the studio's stock price had doubled to a record high. Prior to 1977, 20th Century Fox's greatest annual profits were $37 million, while in 1977 the company broke that record, posting a profit of $79 million. So everybody did coke that night. Yeah, it's like kind of nuts, to see this thing. I mean, and what's great is again going back to the shooting, they said the cast and crew were constantly trying to like make jokes for George Lucas to cheer him up because he was horribly depressed the whole time. I mean, I think the whole time.
How could they tell?
Him and everyone else were convinced that this was going to be the greatest disaster of all time, and then it ended up just being this incredible, film. They had to fire the editor. By the way, the original editor, he has a silly name too, so I want to say it. It's like Jim Jimpies or something like that. It's like some guy with a classically like, oh yeah, of course that's like a terrible name. Shit, I don't know if I can find it. But they had to fire him and get like 2 new editors, and his wife, who was editing New York, New York at the time, stepped in and helped to edit New York, New York, of course, being a classic Scorsese film. Yeah, pretty fucking
nuts.
They
were all fucking each other,
yeah.
I'm telling you.
But, well, a lot of people say that like the reason why the original Star Wars was better than the prequels is because George Lucas had a lot of people telling him no, and he had a lot of people telling him no, and a lot of people like, for example, like his wife was like a lot of people say that's one of the reasons why Star Wars was so good.
Yeah. Various all the human moments, all those I think it's Princess Leia giving Luke the little kiss for good luck before he swings across the little chasm. Like, all those cute little human moments were, like, definitely from outside of Lucas. Mm-hmm. All the individual performances were on point. The special effects shots were amazing. They had to invent all these advanced rigs to show, like, a spaceship flying in 3-dimensional space with the camera and the models moving in different directions. That hadn't been done before. All these things just made it work. And so I want to ask you, Holden, what is your favorite parts about Star Wars? Whether that's a performance, like an emotion, a scene, like what?
Honestly, I was and even though this was literally a point I was about to bring up that actually was something that Lucas talked about. That I think I finally got a handle on it. Why I like the film that recently came out, J.J. Abrams made, Dippy Goes to Washington or whatever it's called. And the reason why it was
Dippy Awakens.
What made it a return to form to the original trilogy, and it's so funny because it says here that Lucas was the one who said this about what his vision for the original Star Wars trilogy that he completely abandoned later in the prequels. He said he described it as a used future. The concept that's what he said to the production designers, in which all devices, ships, and buildings looked aged and dirty. That was required for true credibility. He wanted to embrace the combination of strange graphics of fantasy and the feel of a documentary to impress a distinct look. That's what I like the most about Star Wars, is it feels like a real place, even though it's the future.
Yeah, no, you ever go to, like, in Star Trek, they always go to, like, the space bar, and it's always so, like, clean and, like, carpeted. Like, what kind of fucking bar is carpeted?
Yeah, I think what makes it work so well, and the reason why Han Solo is such an enduring character as well, is that you're like, because he's so like a guy you feel like you know from your back in your hometown. He's like a real human dude in the future. He's not like some like, we have to turn the gleeglocks on the bleeblops. And then, you know,
he's like, hey, I'm Han Solo. Guess what? I have a penis.
Right? mixed with like dirty spaceships and a look that feels just very like the real world. I think that's what worked so well for me, and what they completely abandoned in the original trilogy, which is also hilarious too. I was reading about the writing of it. A lot of the things that he threw out in early drafts were later used for the prequels. So it was all, the prequels are just a wall to wall, all the bullshit.
There was an old Jedi Master called Mace Windy.
Yeah, it was like all the silly ass stuff that you look at in early drafts and are like, that's fucking dumb as shit. That was really smart to throw away. He later just shoveled all that into the prequels. Makes so much sense.
Was the Jew bug in the original prequels?
I'm pretty sure
he was a Semitic Arab Jewish hybrid. Just all the gross Mesopotamian cultures combined.
What about you, Jake? What is your favorite thing about A New Hope?
I think it's the fact that it is such a disparate combination of all this cool shit that otherwise would have just been left by the wayside. Like, everything from John Williams' score is operatic. It is like full-on Wagnerian motifs and like bombast, where previously like sci-fi was, you know, a theremin just going like... Instead, this is sci-fi that had like themes and like counter themes and all these things just going like, you know, everything from the main theme to Darth Vader's theme. Everything had like this emotional punch to it. The fact that it had they found a way to have sword fights, which are just, it's just more emotional. It's a bigger conflict. It's a person versus a person. It's a conflict of will and determination versus just like straight up like a battle scene.
Oh God, I love that Han Solo. To quickly interject, Han Solo was like originally like a green alien with gills.
Yeah,
and he changed it to a human to make it more relatable.
Yeah. Oh, and just the fucking hero's journey. Like, Star Wars is just, you know, that Joseph Campbell fucking step-by-step guide. The monomyth is just down to a T, and it's just like, if you're 8 years old, it just resonates so hard.
Done simply and well, and just right there for you. It's so accessible, and yet it's still in crazy, you know, like recently I went back, and I'm sure we'll eventually cover this topic, but I went back, I read Dune recently, and you know, that is just such a crazy, you know, political, complicated, it's what you think of when you think of sci-fi, whereas opposed to Star Wars, where it was just like, oh, this is like insanely accessible. This is like, just, you can walk right into this movie and just live in it and be there, and you don't have to like read any appendices before you do so.
Oh, and of course Darth Vader's fucking radical.
Darth Vader rules, man.
No, it's just fun. That's all it is. Like that, I think like that's what it comes down to, and that's why the prequels didn't work, because they're not any fun.
Right.
Did you see the scene when Jar Jar Binks is like trying to juggle those like bowling ball things on top of a tank, and he's like, whoa, come on.
That's pretty fun, Marcus. What's your favorite Jar Jar Binks moment? We'll do that. Well, you know what? We'll do a full episode on Jar Jar Binks.
I don't know. Anytime he says
through the planet, blah, 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 blah.
going, no. Anytime he says Misa, Misa, so sorry.
Anytime he says it,
Anytime he says it, No, it's just Star Wars is just like fun from beginning to end. That's it. It's just always fun, even when it's like dangerous. It's still fun.
You can always throw it in. You can always, you know, while you're eating, during sex, you can have it on. You can when you're, right after sex.
I don't shoot till Greedo does, baby. You know the rules.
Post coitus, you're just covered in sweat. Chain smoking cigarettes. Talking about like, oh, that got weird. Which is great to have Star Wars on in the background.
It's broken up into like very distinct scenes that that serialized influence. Because like there's all these set pieces, there are all these individual problems they have to solve along the way. Whereas like I remember, like Zack Snyder in Justice or Dawn of Justice, he has all these like cool images, but like there's no actual scenes in the movie. While Star Wars is everything from the trash compactor to the cantina to infiltrating. In the costume.
Every second is iconic.
Yeah.
Every second you can kind of put your finger on and kind of flick it until it goes. Yeah. I'm sorry, my head's in the gutter now. I mentioned sex. And I can't stop thinking about it.
Where are we on time?
No, this will bring you back. 5 minutes, 25 seconds left. This will bring you back. I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Power converters. My buddy, shout out to Ben Epps. He always talked about that one line as being the most annoying line. that Star Wars is perfect except for that one line because it's just so obnoxious. And he keeps saying it over and over to me. So I'm glad that wasn't just me and Ben Epps.
Oh, no, that always stuck out in my mind, too.
Murder.
But that's the thing. He's a child.
Yeah, you'll waste time with your friends when you're done with your chores.
Oh, I hope you get burned to death, old man. I'm not going to feel nothing. I'm going to look at your charred corpse and I'm just going to walk away.
That is one thing that I always wonders. That everyone else, when they get hit by blasters, they just die. But for some reason, Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen combusted like a motherfucker.
I mean, I imagine that like they like a RoboCop where all the gangsters like gather around and repeatedly shoot.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how they went down. But that's a fan theory.
Anybody who's been screaming the name of the original editor that had to be fired, by the way, I just found the name. It's John Jimson. That is just the most fireable name.
Jimson! You are fired.
Apparently, he just made such a terrible by the numbers edit originally of the film, and it was just incredibly like by the book and terrible. And I think 30 to 40% of his edit was not used. Like the 30 to 40% of the shots in his original edit were not used.
You know the phenomena of the Phantom edit that people did in the prequels, where they actually like went back and tried to make it more watchable. I want the Jimson cut.
Yeah, I
want to see
Jimson
this
cut.
Iconic movie just ruined through sheer editing.
Love to see this Jimson cut. That'd be so great. Anybody out there who has the Jimson cut, Jimson, if you're out there, I'm going to find you. I'm going to tie you down. I'm going to just ask you what your greatest fears are. If it's spiders, I'm going to throw spiders on you. If it's scorpions, I'm going to throw scorpions on you. If it's just like,
I hate to be just like, scorpions are like, fuck, I only brought spiders.
Well, it's got to be spider side. I love spiders. God damn it, Jimson. Just give me the cut. Where's the cut? I know you have the fucking cut. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like, the cut. What are you talking about? Just like Jimson. So one of these days we'll get it, I think, or George Lucas has it in one of his. I bet he has like a bunch of vaults with weird stuff in it.
Oh, I bet he hates the past. He always tries to change it. I bet he burns every cut, every single cell.
Just destroys it all. Well, fuck. What else do we have here? I mean, it earned $1,554,475,000, and that didn't make any sense.
$4,005,640,000.
As the Guinness Book of World Records for the third highest grossing film when adjusted for inflation in the North American box office. People, what are you going to do about that?
Number one, Titanic.
Avatar, right?
Is it Avatar?
Because of 3D ticket prices, it's a really expensive ticket.
Oh, big expensive ticket, and everybody had to go see it. I still have not seen Avatar.
You're fine.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what everybody says. So I'm like, why would I see it? There's like that one guy out there who's just like, I got the Avatar. It's canon. It's canon. Canon to what, dude? Seriously. Go fuck. If you are out there and you're saying to yourself right now,
you're threatening a lot of people this episode.
I'm mad and I don't know how to control it.
You're just horny and full of spiders, just ready to go.
I boomerang from horny to angry.
I think you just
so harshly right now. I don't know what is going on. I am mad right now, and I'm going to be horny in 2 seconds, Marcus.
Yeah, I think he just named your biography. Horny and full of spiders.
Horny and full of spiders. There you go. Coming from me. It's mostly going to be about Star Wars A New Hope, which is going to be very disappointing.
Oh, last thing. Fucking, if you're a Star Wars fan and you're a pretentious asshole, watch Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. Like, that was always, like, pointed out as, like, a big influence, and in structure and in tone. It's amazing, the one-to-one matches you'll find there. Yep. And that's, again, just a weird, disparate influence that he brought into this miasma of ideas that, like, came out great.
Yeah, it was particularly telling the story from the lowliest characters in the film, which was in Hidden Fortress, it was the peasants, and in Star Wars, it's C-3PO and R2-D2. R2-D2 also was an obscenity-yelling, talking robot originally, and then they changed it to bleeps and bloops.
Like obscenity, like
yeah. Yeah, it was like, you fucking humans with all your fucking dicks and your pussies.
And, like, George was like, however we do this, it has to be a little person in a trash can.
Yeah, it has to be a little person in the trash can. I will not do this. He would scream crazy. This is the thing. He would just scream crazy stuff. I think he had a laudanum addiction, and they would put it in the movie. But he was just screaming about his hallucinations. So that's another fun fact for you to take home and tell your mother about.
I want an old gay British samurai in this thing.
Do it in the prequels. What prequels? I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know. It'll change your life, and it also means nothing. So there you go. I think that's the two things you can say about Star Wars.
5, 4, 3.
We're done.
2, 1.
Star Wars. This has been all right. Okay. We don't need to hear the whole chime. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. This has been the Bruiser and the Wizard. I'm the Blizzard, Holden McNeely, coming through to cool down your nips, you crazy little people out there.
And I'm the Wheel Czar, just offering you a nice piece of refreshment once Holden's done with his spiders and yelling.
That's the sound the spiders make when they're coming to your town. And we will be on our book tour next week as soon as we finish our book.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.